Hello and good morning. Welcome to the 2023 Chatham-Kent celebration of older adults. I will bring in Mayor Caniff for our welcoming and open remarks. Mayor Caniff?
Good morning, everyone. Thrilled to have everyone joining in today. It's a special day every year we have to celebrate the achievements of seniors throughout our community. It's so important what each and every person does in our community. This is what makes Chatham-Kent Chatham-Kent. So many people look at Chatham-Kent as a very special place, and when I talk to them, it's because of the people. And it's very important that we reach out and thank the people that do so much in our community. So this is a great opportunity for us to put individuals on a pedestal and celebrate what they've done for Chatham-Kent to make so special. So thank you for everything you do in our community. We appreciate it, and it wouldn't be the same without you. So with that, I'll pass it back to Amy.
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. I will bring our counselors, Counselor Marjorie Crew, and her wonderful co-host, Claire.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Well, we are delighted to be here to celebrate the 2023 celebration of older adults in Chatham-Kent. And right off this morning, we're going to be introducing our guest, Stephen Peach. Stephen was born and raised in Chatham. He grew up playing sports and made a few trips to the physiotherapist, learning how the rehab process worked, which sparked his interest in learning more about the physiotherapy profession. Steve initially earned a Bachelor of Human Kinetics degree at the University of Windsor, graduating with distinction. Learning about the human body in such depth and detail solidified his interest in physiotherapy, prompting him to relocate to London to earn his Master of Physical Therapy degree at Western University. In 2014, he combined his professional training with his lifelong dream of owning his own healthcare clinic and opened the doors to Peach Physiotherapy and Wellness Center. Steve's curiosity and passion to help community members maximize their mobility has earned him the title of lifelong learner. He recognizes that best practices in rehab care are continuing to evolve and improve. And Steve regularly completes graduate courses to enhance the service he can provide, acknowledging that each client has unique needs and helping them to become pain-free and to reach their functional goals. It's this passion for supporting his community that earned Stephen the CK Young Entrepreneur of the Year Award in 2018. When not at Peach Physiotherapy, you can find Stephen playing hide and seek with his young daughter, golfing at Maple City Country Club, attending community festivals, and holding out hope for a Minnesota Vikings Super Bowl victory. Oh, Steve. Welcome, Steve. We're looking forward to your presentation on busting the myth of wear and tear.
Thanks, Claire. Yeah, that was an amazing introduction. Thank you. Hopefully you guys can see my screen okay. All right, perfect. Now we're good. So yeah, thanks for the amazing introduction. So I know many of you have probably come across me in the past in the community, and I'm excited to share this cool presentation with you guys. So a tiny bit more about me. This is my beautiful daughter and son, Isla and Brooks. Just echoing what Mayor Caniff said, I couldn't agree more that Chatham, what makes Chatham special is the people here in the community. And I'm super proud to be back home, back in Chatham, and Chatham-Kent support for me and my business allows me to support the community in several other ways, whether it's speaking engagements like this or different charitable organizations. I'm really proud to be a member of the Chatham-Kent community. A little bit about the clinic. We're located on St. Clair. We've been open for just under 9 years now. We're a physiotherapy clinic, provide pelvic health, chiropractic, massage. I won't get into that because we have a lot to cover. So if you guys have seen us before or want to check us out, we're on social media and we obviously have our website and all that too. So I think that speaking engagements like this and talking to the community is extremely important. And I promise this is my only animated slide, because right now, with constantly changing health information, access to good information and bad information, it's important that people have know what accurate information is when it comes to their health and what inaccurate information is, so they can make real quality choices for their own health. And having good education is such a vital part of that. So we're going to get into some different things about osteoarthritis. Osteoarthritis, we hear lots about hip and knee replacements, which is why osteoarthritis tends to be, a pretty popular topic. But there's a lot of misinformation about osteoarthritis. So I want to talk to you guys about what OA or osteoarthritis really is and what it isn't, what causes it and what doesn't. And then that last point should be what treatments should look like and what treatments really aren't as supported by research as what we think. All right, so we're going to chat first about the healthy joint, and for the sake of the presentation, I'm going to focus on knees and hips. But I will say that osteoarthritis can affect any joint in the body that has cartilage in it. So it can be in your shoulder, in your spine, in your ankle, but we'll focus on these two locations since they seem to be pretty common complaints that come into the clinic. Now, looking at the knee, I have just the single picture here. Now, we see the kneecap, we see the femur, so the long bone in your thigh, the tibia, the long bone in your shin. Now, this whitish, little bit brighter portion of the joint is the articular cartilage. And we're going to get a little bit more into that part. But if I'm sure several of you out there have been told at one point or another that you have a meniscus tear. We'll talk about that a little bit too. If you imagine little cushions on the inside of the joint, both in the lateral or outside portion, or in the medial or the middle portion, we have medial and lateral meniscus inside our knee joint. If you imagine too, if we took basically shrink wrap and we shrink wrapped that whole joint together, that's what would make up what's called a capsule, or the connective tissue surrounding the joint. Of course, we have our ligaments, which stabilize bone to bone, and lots of muscles going, all the way across in different directions across the joint. Now, when we look at the hip, again, we see that little bit brighter articular cartilage here. And just like the knee, we have a joint capsule, or the connective tissue around the joint, lots and lots of ligaments that support the joint and keep it strong and stable, and then several muscles that cross the joint to control it. Now, I do have another app. If you guys want me to pull it up later, I'll save that for maybe the question section, where I can actually use these models and move them around and make them a little bit more interactive. Now, so we'll talk about the articular cartilage, because that tends to be what a lot of people focus on when they think of osteoarthritis. Now, like I said, that's that smooth portion of the joint that covers the ends of the bone. Now, the best way to describe it is like a shock absorber. And the analogy that I like to use is it's like a sponge. Now, the cartilage actually doesn't have any nerve supply and has very, very little, if any, blood supply. Now, the interesting thing about having no nerve supply is that the cartilage actually can't be a source of pain. Now, even though you have some breakdown in the cartilage, technically it can't cause pain itself. Okay. Now, since it's sponge-like and the insides of the joints don't have a tremendous amount of blood supply, now the cartilage relies on constant loading and unloading. So if you think of taking a sponge and having it in water and squishing the water out and then letting it recoil and suck water back in, that's how the cartilage actually relies on kind of forcing out lubricant and nutrients and then sucking fresh stuff in. So we need this regular loading and unloading for our joints in order to keep them strong and healthy. Now, some of the changes that we see with osteoarthritis, ultimately it is breakdown of the joint. We can often see that there's some swelling in the joint, or some inflammation. Typically, we see that with the knee because it's a very superficial joint. There's not much skin, or there's not many layers between the skin and the joint, so we can see things have kind of swollen up. And some of that swelling and breakdown of the joint can lead to a sense of instability, okay? Because we've lost some height in different parts of the joint. Now, if anybody out there has osteoarthritis or has told that they have osteoarthritis, you know that it can be quite painful to weight bear. So things like going for long walks, going up and down stairs can be problematic. Interesting enough, osteoarthritis, some people will come in and it starts very gradually. Other people come in and they say, this is the day that my pain started, and it's all been, it's been there since then. So it can come on quite suddenly or gradually. And we see that like a pretty wide range when it comes to those couple presentations. Okay. It is more common than high blood pressure and diabetes, which is pretty interesting. And when we look at our demographics, it is the most common lifestyle disease in people over 65. So when I say lifestyle disease, it's the most common cause of people deciding to modify their activities and to become a bit less active. It also affects younger population. 30% of people 30% of people over 50 do report hip and knee pain. We'll talk a little bit more about age 2. And the big places that we see it, the hands are actually the most common location for osteoarthritis, but we haven't seen anybody with a hand replacement yet. So hips and knees get a lot of publicity as well. So we'll talk about what osteoarthritis isn't. Okay. Now it's important to note that it doesn't just affect the cartilage inside the joint. It affects the bone just underneath of the cartilage. So when people get to the point where the cartilage is pretty worn, that bone starts to thicken and change. It affects the joint capsule because that connective tissue around the joint becomes inflamed and painful. It affects the muscles around the joint because of the swelling, can make the muscles weaker. For a long time, people would call osteoarthritis wear and tear. And we try to get away from that language because coming back to the cartilage, the articular cartilage and it being really sponge-like, we rely on that loading and unloading of the joint to keep it healthy and going. Okay, so we don't wear joints out like we do the tires on our car. We need that moderate amount of activity in order to keep things going. It isn't diagnosed with imaging. When people come in, we don't need an X-ray to tell somebody that they have osteoarthritis. When they have the presence of risk factors, they have stiffness, they have swelling, they have muscle changes, we can tell them that they have osteoarthritis. Imaging can be beneficial when we're trying to figure out, maybe surgery is appropriate, or we're trying to rule out other things that might camouflage as osteoarthritis, but we don't need imaging to tell somebody they have osteoarthritis. So what causes osteoarthritis? Now, there's obviously things that we can control and we can't control. Now, things we can control, excess weight can play a big role in the osteoarthritis. And there's a couple of reasons why. First of all, the simple loading of our joints. The more pressure on our joints, the more likely they are to cause some breakdown, but also increased fat tissue on the body contributes to more inflammation in the body. And we know that people with excess weight on the body actually have more hand osteoarthritis, which kind of shows us that it's that inflammatory nature of weight that contributes to osteoarthritis, not only the loading and the overload of the joint. Joint overload, that can be, say, working a long career, working on cement floors. There's a multitude of things that can contribute to that. Physical activity and muscle weakness. Now, there's a stronger relationship between somebody's muscle strength and their pain than there is between what we see on x-rays and pain. Now, fortunately, those are two easy things to handle and to address, and now we can control our activity level and our strength. Joint injury, I would say this kind of falls somewhere in the middle. We know that when we've had a major injury to the joint, we're more likely to develop osteoarthritis. Now, we can't completely avoid injury if we're doing things that are active and things that are our control happen. But we can control is properly rehabbing and strengthening and doing the right things after an injury. And by doing that, we reduce the likelihood of actually developing osteoarthritis. Things we can't control, age, osteoarthritis is more common as we get older, of course. But just because you get older doesn't mean you're going to get osteoarthritis. Sex, women are more commonly affected than men with osteoarthritis. Typically, women are more affected for their hands and their knees, and men more affected in their hips. And genetics. We know that if your parents have had joint replacements, you are more likely to require them as well. Now, things that don't cause osteoarthritis. Osteoarthritis isn't only an older person's disease, okay? People that are in their 20s and in their 30s will also show evidence of osteoarthritis as well, especially if they've had a major injury. Cracking your knuckles does not cause it, or else my hands would really, really hurt more than they already do. You can't prevent it is completely incorrect. By doing the right things and stacking the right habits and routines on top of each other over time, we can definitely minimize the likelihood of it happening and prevent it. Running, we know, does not cause it, even though we might consider that as a higher load activity. Running does not cause it. We know that actually runners in an older age have higher amounts of articular cartilage in their joints. Okay, so a couple of things to think about there. Now we're going to look through some treatment options or kind of the treatment pyramid. Now, ultimately, what's appropriate for absolutely everybody is going to be education, exercise, and for some people, weight control. And we can get into that second line of medications, passive treatments from a physio, chiropractor, whatever. And then for some people, surgery. Now, just because we jump to that second line of defense doesn't mean we stop exercise and education for people, some people, weight control. And the same thing when we jump into the next one. Okay, there's a lot of inconsistency about osteoarthritis management amongst professions, amongst healthcare professions. So it's important to understand what's now. Exercise is super, super important. Supervised exercise is most effective compared to just an independent home program. Now, with exercise, it should be challenging. What I tell patients is you should be breathing heavy, you should be breaking a little bit of a sweat. We want to see that when people are exercising, okay? It should be progressive, so it should get a little bit harder as you go. The World Health Organization recommends 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercise per week or 75 minutes of high intensity exercise, okay? And strengthening is very, very important. Okay, so against resistance with an external load, so a weight, is very important. Now, things that we can use in that second line of defense that aren't medications, hands-on treatment, braces, acupuncture, home TENS machines, orthotics, hot and cold packs. There's a very big multitude of things that we can get into here. Now, additional treatments, anti-inflammatories tend to be quite effective for osteoarthritis. So I'm sure a lot of you have seen Voltaren or have used Voltaren. That is a topical anti-inflammatory, whereas like Aleve or ibuprofen would be oral options. Tylenol tends to be less effective than anti-inflammatories, but there are a lot less side effects with Tylenol compared to anti-inflammatory. So it might be more appropriate for some people. I'm not going to jump into a lot of these options as well. Now, one thing that when we're talking about injections, anti-inflammatories, passive treatments like manual therapy, glucosamine supplements, if they are going to help, the effects tend to be short-lived. So they aren't long-term solutions, if you will. Okay. But they do have their place for some people. Now, of course, I'm not a surgeon, but for some people and few people, ultimately surgery is indicated for hip or knee osteoarthritis. Okay. We tend to only see joint replacements now. There are other surgical options out there, but joint replacements tend to be where things go if they're going to get to that surgery stage. Now, a couple myths about treatment. Exercise won't hurt. We're going to jump into that a little bit more. Some pain with exercise is expected and likely will happen, but it's really important to have a realistic expectation of what normal pain is going to be and what pain that you might need some different approaches for would look like as well. But it is normal to have some pain with exercise. And with time and with consistency, that pain does get better with exercise. Okay. Another myth, significant weight loss is needed. We're talking about weight loss. It can be a bit of a daunting topic. Just with walking, the load on our hips and knees is about 4 to 6 times our body weight. So if we lose 5 pounds of weight, that's like losing 20 to 30 pounds of load on our lower body joints with every single step. So even a small difference can make a big improvement. Several of you out there probably had their knees scoped. Long ago, they probably 8 to 10 years ago, they would do more kind of cleanup surgeries where they would go in and debride and clean up some of the osteoarthritis. We know that those surgeries tend to actually lead to a higher likelihood of needing a joint replacement. And the results with those surgeries actually aren't any better than just doing conservative management like physiotherapy. Now, when we're talking about managing your osteoarthritis and getting into an exercise program, there's a couple things that can help set you up for success. Now, one big barrier for people getting into a consistent exercise program for their hip or knee osteoarthritis is other comorbidities. So let's say you have terrible lower back pain and your back pain is actually a bigger issue than your knee pain. You should probably get your back pain looked at and addressed first, so that it's not getting in the way of your lower body knee or hip program. Okay. Jumping back into what pain is kind of normal with exercise and expected. The expected pain should stay in a very an acceptable level. Now, I know everybody's 0 to 10 pain scale is different, but 0 to 5 out of 10 is absolutely okay as long as it settles down within 24 hours. Okay. Sometimes when you go through exercises, you will have a bit more pain. So it's important to have a few exercises that you can kind of modify to while the pain's flared up, and know some self-management strategies like ice, heat, Voltaren, using a home TENS machine, putting a brace on for a bit, to have those self-management strategies to kind of fall back on in order to kind of get out of pain and keep going. Another thing too is always set realistic goals and pick activities and exercise you like. You're more likely to take your medication if it tastes good. And if you pick exercises and an activity you enjoy, you're much more likely to stick with it. Okay. Now, I have cruised through a lot of information very quickly, but I invite everybody to take down this is my email for work. That's the clinic's phone number and website. If you have questions, I won't be able to get through, I'm sure, all of them, but please feel free to shoot me an email. Don't just rely on a program from the internet if you're trying to introduce some exercise to help manage your osteoarthritis. Get assessed by somebody and come up with an individualized program. And we do have a hip and knee osteoarthritis program that we're going to be rebooting, hopefully in the near future as well. So I will open up for questions and switch my screens here.
Thank you, Stephen. And thank you for all of the amazing information. So just want to let people know if you have a question, please enter it in the comment section. We'll try to get to as many as possible. But in anticipation of this presentation, we had a couple people who pre-submitted some questions, and there's one that kind of really speaks to me. And the question is heat or ice best for osteoarthritis?
That's a question we get a lot, and to be honest with you, it comes down to personal preference. Typically, we would lean a little bit more towards ice if the joint is red, hot, swollen, and it's more of an acute pain. But it's not to say that ice is right and heat's wrong. Play between the two, see what feels best, and go from there. One day ice might feel better than heat. I know that for a long time, people would say that ice helps with inflammation. We know that objectively, it doesn't help as much with inflammation as maybe what we once did. So just pick what feels good and go with that.
Wonderful. Another pre-submitted question, are there any diets or maybe foods that can help benefit osteoarthritis?
Yeah, that's another good question. So there's lots of different uh, diet diets out there that tend to be beneficial for osteoarthritis. Now, that kind of the overarching theme for management of osteoarthritis is more of an anti-inflammatory diet. Now, diets and nutrition is a bit out of my scope of practice, but if you can find a diet that's kind of lowers the inflammation in your system, that's what tends to be more beneficial because of that low level inflammatory response that we see in your system. And as a result, that contributes to the osteoarthritis.
Thank you. Is pool exercise good for osteoarthritis?
Yeah, for sure. Pool exercise definitely has its time and its place for people with osteoarthritis. Now, the time that I like to kind of refer to pool exercise is when maybe exercising on land in a normal strengthening program might be a bit too painful, or a patient's not ready to get to those exercises quite yet. Of course, when you're in the water, you're more buoyant. There's less natural load on the joints, so it's a really good starting place. But like I said about the articular cartilage inside the joints, it relies on that constant loading and unloading, and we get more of that when we're doing normal land exercise. So certainly beneficial, but when we're talking about really building strength and the health of the cartilage, we should be doing some exercise when we're ready outside of the pool as well.
Thank you. So, kind of a great segue where you're talking about exercise there. Does stretching help with osteoarthritis?
Yeah, stretching can be helpful as well. Again, we kind of steer a bit more to a strengthening program. What we see with people with osteoarthritis is that with a stretching or range of motion program, you might make improvements in their mobility in the short term. When we look at the medium to long term response to a stretching routine, there's a bit less benefit compared to a strengthening program. So if you're somebody that absolutely loves stretching, you say you love going to yoga, that's a great plan, and that's something to certainly incorporate into your routine because you're more likely to keep up with it. But you should try to find some strengthening exercises as well to add to your program.
Okay, that's really great information. Are there any braces that might be good for osteoarthritis?
Yeah, so the main spots that you would see braces would be for the knee. They do make hip braces as well, but they're pretty uncommon and they're a bit cumbersome to wear. The simple thing for people to start with is just a compression brace for their knee. So it doesn't have to be anything complicated. but just a thicker, tight material to help improve the sense of stability and maybe trap some heat in. Okay, and that just makes the joint feel a little bit looser, makes it feel a little bit easier to move. The brace itself isn't the solution alone, but if that makes things a little bit, it makes it a bit easier to exercise. It makes it easier to get out and go for a walk. Then a brace 100% makes a lot of sense. Now they do make fancier braces for the knee that actually try to take some pressure off of an inside or outside compartment. They're called motor braces, and they're generally custom braces. But they're really only appropriate if somebody has osteoarthritis in a single compartment, so just on the inside of their knee or just on the outside of the knee. If there's osteoarthritis throughout the knee, those braces aren't a great fit.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring Marjorie Crew and Clara back into our stream, where Marjorie will thank Stephen, and then in a short couple minutes, the moment everyone has been waiting for is we'll ask participants to move to the award location. And so over to you, Marjorie.
Thanks, Amy. Thank you, Steve, for that really informative presentation about our knees and the ways that we can prevent damage from happening and having a more mobile and good quality of life as we age. I really liked your comment about cracking joints. I don't know how you're busting that myth. That was really, there was a chuckle in the room. I think that we've all heard it when you're cracking the knuckles. It's like, oh, you're going to get arthritis. So thank you for letting me know that I can stop scolding my son when he does that. So on behalf of the Celebration of Older Adults Committee, I would like to present you with this gift. I know that you can only see it, but we'd like to thank you. In this box, in this bag is a cutting board, and we're presenting that to you. And we're also presenting you, there's no point in getting a cutting board if you have nothing to cut on it. So we're sending you a gift card for Shinkles Meats.
Oh,
and so you can have a nice barbecue and cut it up. And if one of us are close, you can share that meat with us. So
thank you. That's awesome. And
yeah, Claire will drop that over to you.
I appreciate it.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much,
Thank you
Steve,
so much
for taking the time to share your expertise with our community.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And yes, thank you, Stephen. I'll now ask participants to move over to the awards location, please.
That's us.
Marjorie's going to start. So then,
Welcome back to the 2023 Chatham-Kent Celebration of Older Adults. We have now moved on to the award presentation segment of our event. I believe we have Marjorie, Claire, and the mayor with the 2023 recipient. Over to you, Marjorie.
Thank you, Amy. It's typical of the Willistons, just so you know, to have this large group because there's such a family affair. So June is senior month, and the Chatham-Kent Senior Award is a good way to kick off this viral event to kick off this month. Older adults in our community are the lifeblood of volunteerism, and they are what makes Chatham-Kent move along and to work, live, work, and play.
And this year, we're pleased to receive 16 nominations for the Chatham-Kent Senior Achievement Award. Each of the individuals nominated understand the value of their life experience and demonstrate a willingness to generously share their passions with others in our community. It gives us great joy to celebrate and recognize these dedicated volunteers who continue to inspire us through their tireless dedication and volunteer accomplishments.
This morning, it gives us great pleasure to announce that Mary Williston has been named the winner of the 2023 Chatham-Kent Senior of the Year Award. So with that, Mayor Canna.
Truly an honor presenting this to you, Mary.
Thank you. We have a few things to say about Mary.
And we narrowed it down.
Yes. Well, Mary has a strong love of helping others in her community. Choosing a career in nursing, Mary also found time to dedicate to several nonprofit organizations through lifetime involvement. She's been active in the Chatham-La Sertoma Service Club for more than 50 years, searching out local youth, ensuring they are considered for financial assistance available through the La Sertoma International and the Sertoma Foundation of Canada Scholarship Fund.
Mary's probably best known for her involvement with the Chatham Goodfellows, volunteering for 64 plus years to ensure that no child goes without a Christmas. During the pandemic, Mary volunteered several hours a day sorting food and toys for the May Miracle and the Gift. Mary's also pleasant to everyone she meets, opens her home to everyone, and no matter what time of year, Mary never hesitates to help anyone.
Mary was also an active local Cub Scout leader for over 10 years. And being a breast cancer survivor, Mary also got involved in the local dragon boat racing scene with Breast Buddies over the last 20 years, advocating for awareness of early detection.
Once Mary retired from the Chatham-Kent Health Alliance, she continued to serve as a board member of the Chatham-Kent Health Alliance Foundation, helping wherever and whenever she could, including fundraising and community awareness of the hospital needs. For as long as she's able, Mary will continue to volunteer her time helping out the various organizations and those in our community that are most in need.
Congratulations, Mary. And for those interested in learning more about Mary and all those nominated for the 2023 Chatham-Kent Senior Achievement Awards, biographies of nominees can be found on the Chatham-Kent website. There's another certificate here too.
Yes. And on behalf of our Trevor Jones, our MPPs, could you give the certificate as well, recognizing that? Mary, you're truly an inspiration to all of us. You've been an inspiration to your family. When we talk about all the hours you put in, you've inspired your entire family to do that. And the thousands and thousands of hours that have been put in our community, we thank you for doing that. And you're inspiring all of us to step up and do more. So thank you for everything you do.
Thank you. So we'd like to turn this over to Mary. She let us know that she has a few things to say.
I just want to say that it is with sincere humility that I accept this award. When I get up in the morning, I just wonder what adventure is going to meet me today. And I have found that volunteering does lead me on lots of adventures. So who knew that 50 years ago or more, joining La Sertoma, that I would become the international president? That would take me from coast to coast on the North American continent, making lifelong friends along the way, or that I would be making soup for CK Free Help. Okay. Me that does everything to avoid the kitchen. Or scholarships and a place for teenagers to live would get them future life that you never expected they would achieve. Or just a simple book to a child, teenager, an adult would change their life. But also, who knew that being a cub leader, I would end up at Camp Cataracta. We all know where that is. Yeah. And with a sleeping bag on a tent floor. Those are adventures. But also, who knew that being involved with the Wish Center, that you would meet people like, special people like Tammy and Jamie, and that I have such admiration for them. They have taught me so much. Who knew that being a nurse, my life and the career that gave to me, that I could reciprocate later on back to the board and help fundraising, and we all need the hospital. We know that. Who knew that being a cancer survivor, that I would learn to paddle a dragon boat? Yeah, really. 20 years or more in the dragon boat. Awareness of early cancer detection, and that it would lead me to a race in places like Singapore. Who knew those things would happen? Who knew that being a member of Maple City Baptist Church would give you an appreciation of God, but also, being a good Baptist, appreciation of food.
Yeah.
Who knew that these things, who knew that 64 years ago, on a first date, I would paint a little red wagon for the Chatham Goodfellows, that with a guy named Phil, that I would marry him, and that 5 generations, 4 of which you see today, are still not being volunteer told, but volunteering for Chatham Goodfellows. So 5 generations later, I am so proud of the family that Phil and I have managed to keep going. So they are an awesome family. But who knew that I would get back 10 times what has been given to me, that I have received, rather than me giving, I have received 10 times that. Who knew today also that I would receive these accolades for something that I love to do? Thank you. Thank you. It is with sincere appreciation I accept these awards. Thank you.
You are a true Chatham-Kent ambassador. You're such
Yes.
a role model for all of us, and the legacy that you leave for all of us is right here today.
But I think you hit on a key point there. You get out of things what you put into it. So you mentioned you got 10 times as much out of what you put in, and you put a lot in. So that inspires us all. So as you're watching today, that's where I really take from what you just said. Of all the things you said, that's really focused on that, is that what you receive for doing amazing things in the community.
Thank you. It's true. You get back much more than what you get. Yeah.
And we truly want to thank you, Mary. Yeah, and I knew Phil too, and what you and your late husband gave to our community will go on and on and on, and you can rest assured that will happen. We've witnessed the size and the support that you have for the Williston family. So thank you all. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
And getting
Amy,
to
for
this.
nominating me. Thank you for this selection. It is sincerely appreciated.
Wonderful.
With much humility.
Thank you.
And I congratulate all the nominees. They're great people.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Thank you. So that will conclude the award part of this, but we have an announcement that there's 2 parts to the Chatham-Kent celebration of older adults. And we are announcing today that we are holding an Aging Well conference, and that will be, you'll get more information from my partner, Claire.
Well, this morning we're very excited to announce a second event being held later this year, the Chatham-Kent Celebration of Older Adults Aging Well Conference. This will be a free in-person half-day event held at Hidden Hills Golf and Country Club, Thursday, October the 12th, 2023, 8:30 to 12:30 p.m. with morning refreshment and lunch provided. Please join us to change what you think about aging, learning from local professionals about wills and estates, frauds and scams, yoga, aging in place, and downsizing. Where do you start? Other community service tables will be on site as well, and transportation can be arranged through Family Service Kent.
This is a free event, but please, you must register. So if you go to www.eventbrite.com, Aging Well Conference, get your ticket to join in the fun. Thank you, everyone. That concludes our program. And thank you all for attending.
We'll see you in October.
Have a great day, everybody.
Bye.
Bye for now.